So how was that for an intro? Because I'm proud of all of you for growing up with me. I know how tough it can be to look with hope and confidence in the years to come. And I just want to know I love you just the way you are. And I'm grateful for you keeping dirt bikes in your life. It's such a good feeling to know that we are lifelong friends. Live from Pahrump, the Dirt Bike Test Shop, this is Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We are going to talk about dirt bikes and dirt bike related products. It's not tequila tasting at Ramiro's anymore. It's we're going to have a little taste of tequila here tonight in the shop. And we're going to get to some of your questions. A few of you submitted questions. I've got them right here on my run sheet. Talk about all the things that you need to know answers to. You want no BS answers by somebody who is not getting paid by all the manufacturers and things like that. I'm not on the docket or the dole for anybody, but I do have partners that work with me. And tonight I'd like to thank Climb for being since they've been in business, they've been helping out me, Jimmy Lewis, and my off-road school. So that's been a long time partnership. Climb makes excellent off-road gear, period. Long-lasting, well thought out, good, durable gear that when I'm riding for myself personally, when I'm not in front of a camera, or a lot of times when I am in front of a camera, I'm wearing Climb stuff. If you ever want to know specifics about why I wear what I wear, how I wear it, feel free to ask. That's always another thing. Another long-time sponsor of Jimmy Lewis Off-Road Training. That's my school. I don't talk much about that, but I have one, an off-road riding school. They're probably a sponsor too, because by having that school, it allows me to do this, because this isn't much of a paying gig at the moment, although it will be soon. We've got some big things in the works. I keep saying that, and there's big things, so they take a long time to work on. We also, Kenda. So Kenda has been helping us out, and they make excellent tires. The good thing about tires is that you're going to be changing them all the time, and they work differently for different people. People like different characteristics. I like Kenda tires. Out here, I run the Kenda Parker DTs on almost all of my bikes, almost exclusively. And the other tire I run quite a bit is the Kenda Equilibrium, which is a soft, gummy, kind of Trials-esque combination tire. So if you are interested in something that's going to last a long time, both those tires, I get easily 1,000 miles out of a set of those. And excellent tires, different traction situations. And the one thing I really like about those tires, especially the Parker DT front, and the Parker DTs I always run in the hard direction. It's a directional tire. They're excellent on the brakes. And if you know me, I can outbrake you because I have good tires and I practice it a lot. And that's why I'm faster and safer than you. Okay, so good to see a lot of you out there. I see people popping into the chat room. Last week, we gave away a shirt to, where is Eric Holt? Got the shirt from last week. I'm going to send it out tomorrow because I went riding, and that way I didn't get all of my business done. That's probably why all these projects take a long time to get done. They're big projects. So we'll run through some of the different things. But again, thanks to Kenda and Climb. If you are industry people out there and you want to get back behind this show, make this thing grow, you want to get in now while it's cheap, because it's gonna grow and it's gonna get bigger. And I talk to your customers. I talk to your customers on this podcast. I talk to your customers when I answer emails. I talk to your customers when your customers talk to the other customers because they heard this guy who really knew what he was talking about. And it's this friend word of mouth sharing that really goes a long ways. And generally, I would say people trust what I say, what we say at Dirt Bike Test. We take a lot of responsibility in giving excellent information. We don't just spit out product tests and regurgitate sponsor stuff. We only say what we feel is correct because I want everybody to trust us. So that's the way we work here. Another shout out is to a good friend, a kid that I'm probably responsible for his dirt bike addiction. His name is Ryan Hanna. He is, he wanted to be a professional motorcycle racer at one point in his life, which was a big mistake because he's actually an artist. And I want you to check out, if you're getting ready for this, somebody on the chat, go ahead and take this, write this down. It's www.artbrewtour.com. And so Ryan actually does a lot of crazy art, and I never knew he was an artist. I thought he was I thought he was going to be a 909er because this one time after he helped me at my school, I had to give him gas money because he spent all his money getting a big tattoo of his name, and I think it's Old English or something on his back, and he didn't have enough money to drive home. And I gave him a nice pat on the back, right on the scabs. But anyways, www.artbrewtour.com. He's up in the San Francisco Bay Area. He did an awesome portrait of Ricky Brabeck from the Dakar Rally, and it's an artistic interpretation. He's been doing some different moto stuff, and it's really cool to see. He actually reached out to me to send him one of my favorite photos, and I haven't done it because I went riding. So shout out to Ryan. He's also, when you see some of those logos, the one that we used last week, that Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, he drummed that up. I don't know how long it took. It was pretty cool. It kind of symbolized what we're doing here, and I'm sure we'll see more from him in the future. But let me tell you the Ryan Hanna story when he decided to be a pro motorcycle. He bought my 93, I don't know, it was a KTM LC4 rally kind of adventure. It was the original KTM 620 adventure with that big giant gas tank, and he signed up for Vegas to Reno just out of the blue, and that was going to be his first race. I'm going to do Vegas to Reno. And his transmission blew up on the way. He used AAA to tow him to the start line. He took off in the race. I think it was one of the ones that was a couple days long. It was when they split it in half or something. And I think the bike caught on fire or spilt gas all over his nuts. It's a great reason not to do a race like that as your first race. But lessons learned. The kid is really turned out to be something, and I think motorcycles made him a stronger and better person, and that's kind of some of the stuff that I like to talk about. You know, it's not just crashing and boonie bashing. It's life lessons that are learned, and one of these days I'll tell you why I ride motorcycles, what keeps them interesting and exciting for me. So I'm gonna get right into some of the questions. So later on the show, just if you want to start priming yourself with some of the questions, I'm going to talk about four strokes, kind of like the rebirth of four strokes, because I was there when it was happening, enjoying and suffering all the way along the way. I was riding with a good buddy of mine, Dave Donatoni, this weekend. We were testing the Yamaha WR450, which is parked right behind me, and also getting the final touches on the KTM 350 EXC done. I wanted to have a few other people ride it in the state that they win. Both bikes were still going with the Yamaha, but kind of finishing up with that KTM. And me and Dave were talking about some of the old times, and it brought back some really good memories and some interesting memories. So our two brain cells, they zzz like that, and things start working. So we're going to talk about some old four-stroke stuff, and the other thing I wanted to bring up, that'll probably fill up the hour. Who knows? We'll see what we get to. But Garrett Ortiz asked a question. He said, what are your likes and dislikes of the KTM 200? So obviously he knows I'm a KTM 200 fan. I miss it since it's gone. He's thinking of pulling the trigger on a 2019 Beta 200RR to sharpen his skills and to have something for the wife to ride when I'm not riding it. So you mean you're buying your wife a motorcycle for yourself? Never done that, not even 35 out of the 40 times I bought bikes. So you wondered how you like the KTM 200 and maybe use it as a similar comparison since the Beta is brand new. I'll be keeping my 2018 500 RRS for dual sporting light adventure bikes ride. Well, it sounds like you're a beta guy, so you're going to have no problem like adapting to a beta. They're good bikes. There's nothing wrong with betas. In fact, I was trying to get Big John in here because he used to be a beta rider and now he's a Honda rider. That was his bike I was pulling the clutch out of when we started the show. And but since the KTM 200 is gone, there is no reason why a Beta 200 wouldn't be a really good choice. And I'm kind of in the same position where I bought one of the last year KTM 200s because I love those bikes. I like how light they are and how nimble they feel and how indestructible they are and all the good things about them. And so I was kind of thinking maybe I should get like a 150 XC, and they had a 150 XCW for a while, which is, I don't like the linkage, so for trail riding, but it just doesn't have the torque the 200 has. That extra 50 cc's really makes a big difference in torque. So I went with the 200, and I'm pretty sure that Beta will have a good engine package and a good engine character. I haven't ridden one, so I can't say specifically what it's going to be like. I don't know if it's built off their 125 or if it's a sleeve down. I haven't looked at it that closely. I usually don't spend a lot of time studying the spec sheet. I usually just hop on a bike and ride it and then go look at the spec sheet to see if the stuff I don't like them to fill my mind up with the PR speak before I get an impression, because it doesn't alter my stuff, but I like the stuff that really stands out to stand out. I don't want it to be spelled out for me, so I start looking for it when I'm testing stuff. So I think KTM 200 would be really good, especially since you're already in the Beta family. And somebody just mentioned it's built off the 125. See, that's why we have you experts out there, or at least people who know a few things. But you're already a Beta guy. You get it. I don't think it's going to be a bad choice. I'm supposed to be getting one of those in the not too distant future to test. I know that they were getting one prepped up, and we will work on that in the near future. So let me know how you like it. I always like feedback when we do this kind of stuff. Next question. Chance McCamish asked, do seal savers work? So seal savers, I believe he's talking about the ones that are in the neoprene sleeves. And it's interesting because just last week we used a thing called I forget the name. There's a package right over on the table over there someplace. So anything you can do to keep what really kills seals is like fine mud, sticky mud stuff that starts getting packed up and rammed up into the seal. And so there's inside the fork, there's the main seal, and then there is the dust wiper, which is kind of like a pre-seal, and the seal saver is like another layer of protection that goes over it. Now, I know a lot of people that are really big fans of them and have good luck. Out here in the West, we don't have that much mud, and we don't really have too many fork seal problems. Most of our fork seal problems come from rocks getting kicked up like backwards from the tire, getting kicked and coming to, putting little dings in the back sides of the forks, and then those start cutting into the fork seal and kind of ripping it. At that point, you need to have protection for the entire leg, and the seal saver only does the top part. It kind of just wipes the dust and the debris off. So in your muddy conditions, I think it can definitely help. Anything that pre-wipes the fork would be good. The one that we are testing literally covers the whole fork leg, almost like one of those fork boots in the old days on the conventional forks. So I'm pretty sure that they work. I'm sure maybe there's a little bit of stiction on them depending on how tight they are. And the tighter they are, the better they wipe. The looser they are, the less they wipe. And I saw someone mention in the chat, they were asking, was I talking about the fork seal tool? Which no, I was talking about the wiper. If you are asking about the seal saver, hold on one second. Watch this. I think this is the Sealmate. So either it's a well-worn Sealmate. It's backwards on the thing. Actually, there used to be a side that was a hook. It's pretty worn out. Which way did I go? Oh, there's the camera. I'm pointing at the wrong thing. Yeah. So this is a SealMate. This is the Motion Pro sells these. Man, this one's haggard. I let my guys use it, and then they cleaned out a fork seal with it, and a bunch of fork seals with them. And we use those when we get a leaky fork seal. That's the first step to check that. Actually, the first thing they do is I have them check the backside for nicks. If there's a nick, that thing's useless because the seal's already torn. That's why it's leaking. If they're kind of bunged up with debris, these are excellent. So you can use these. If it wasn't torn, it usually has like a hooked end. You put the hook end up there and you squirt a little contact cleaner, and or suspension clean would be the best thing to squirt in there. And then it can suck the dirt out and make the seal stick again. So that's another really good thing to kind of as a preventative thing to fix your forks. Excellent little tool. Maybe someone at Motion Pro is listening, or it'll get back to them that I am on my last leg here. Really, really last leg. I have all their fork seal tools, so I don't need that. I just change the fork seals now, right? So they make awesome fork tools and all kinds of stuff like that. So, okay. So do seal savers work? I think so. There's lots of different options for that. It really depends on where you're at and stuff. Instagram questions. I went on to the Instagram account and actually figured out that some people were asking questions there. Although, like, Instagram people are not Facebook people, so they're not here, so you don't have to worry about them coming and like sneaking into our little chat room. One of these days, we'll probably switch the whole thing over to Instagram, or maybe we'll do a whole nother show on Instagram. Who knows? It just depends. Running with Beef. See, here's the problem I have with Instagram. I don't know who Running with Beef is. Is that your real name? Or I hate like chat room names and forum board names where you're not attached to anything. I mean, I know you can do that on Facebook too, but generally before I answer a question, especially when they're good questions, a lot of times I go see who's asking it to try to see if it's a real person, not Running with Beef. I just don't. I don't know who it is. I can't remember. I wouldn't even remember anyways. I'm not like the CIA. I can't remember who your names are and stuff. How is that motor for a 6'2", 255-pound guy? And I think he was asking about, what was he asking about? Which bike? Oh, the KTM 350. That's right. It was attached to, what's the Instagram name for dirt bike test? Somebody just asked that. It would be Dirt Bike Test on Instagram. Yeah, we actually go by our real name. We don't want to be running around. I don't have any fake accounts that I know of. We're not masquerading as something else. It's us. How is that KTM 350 motor for a 6'2", 255-pound guy? For the bigger guys out there. Here is the thing that I've learned over the years in testing is that the heavier you are, the more power you are going to require. It's not so much like trying to figure out how to explain this. The weight seems like it kills the snap and the rate of acceleration. You're heavier, you put more weight on the bike, you get better traction. It doesn't snap and respond as much because it just doesn't have the torque to go. So like if you're actually in the throttle and you're just rolling on and accelerating, it's going to be fine. You're gonna be lacking some of that hit or snap or pull. And the lower power levels, it's harder for that smaller displacement motor it doesn't have the torque to pull you as quickly. So it kind of depends on how you ride and where you ride in the power band. So. And I always get into this with riders when they start talking about snap and throttle response and how much power a bike has. It's like, where are you riding it? Like and this is the cool thing with all this fuel injection tuning is you can adjust the points in the power band where the bike, responds better. So a bigger guy to get the same roll on and response on a 350 might have to be 1,000 RPMs higher than a guy who's 30 pounds lighter, and another guy who's 30 more pounds lighter could be 1,000 RPMs lower and still get the same throttle response. It's not to say it's not there. It's just not at the same place in the power band. So is that right for you? And I like lugging a bike. So a lot of times for me, when a smaller displacement bike doesn't have that torque, I feel like I have to just rev it a little bit more. We're not talking like crazy revs. It's just 500, 1,000 RPMs more to get that same throttle response. So I rarely say a bike doesn't have enough power. I just kind of modify where I'm riding the bike at, what part of the power band I'm at to get that kind of a throttle response. So I think that motor is fine for a 6'2", 255-pound guy if he's riding at the right RPM level. And they say 6 pounds is a horsepower or something like that. I remember there was a saying about that in 6 pounds is a horsepower. And so you start thinking, well, I could lose 10 pounds, and then I got, almost 2 horsepower. That's a cheap way to get horsepower. So, yeah, especially if you're like me, I'm really trying to watch my girlish figure here. They say the best thing I could do would be to cut out the beers. Good luck. That's the last resort. I'm not going to be 165 pounds like Dave D anytime soon. No Peebs tonight. We're back on the hams. I didn't get my Peebs sponsorship. My agent dropped the ball on that one again. Those fork savers from Best Rest products were Best Rest products, fork savers, if you're interested. Let's see. I'm looking at the thing. Jibber J is out there. He's over in Hawaii. He's probably, working his cush union job. Thinking about snowboarding again. I got a couple more questions here. Keep getting questions on the Nitro Moose. I'm a big fan of the Nitro Moose. Had very good success with them. There were some early ones that they were, and a lot of the ones that I had were prototype ones. So I don't know the failures I had and stuff. I'm pretty sure, and that's been 5 or 6 years now that I've had any quote failures on them, and they failed during ridiculous durability tests that 100 miles an hour for 15 minutes, and it says right in the box, don't go over 80 miles an hour. But I was on a dry lake bed holding my KTM 500 wide open for 15 minutes, and finally got them to start failing, shredding. And it didn't happen while it was going. You had to stop and go through a couple heat cycles, and then all of a sudden they were back. Those old time. So Matt Wiss, WHIS, Matt Wiss asked, would you use a Nitro Moose for a ride like the Tour of Idaho to minimize packed weight, tire irons, tubes, air, and remove one potential failure point? Yes, absolutely. I have had easily over 1,000 miles on some sets, closer to 2 on other sets, and I am pretty sure that I could get the 1,600 miles, and especially since there's a lot of slower speed stuff, and you don't really have to go to the high speed. I'm pretty sure I could get the kind of distance I need out of a single set. Now, that being said, I still would carry tire irons and a spare tube. I carried, I'd have to look at the video, watch the video. I'm pretty sure I carried 2 front tubes, or maybe a front and a rear, or maybe it was 2 fronts and a rear. I don't remember exactly what I carried when I did that, but I know I was prepared for it, and luckily I didn't have to do anything with my tires. Actually, the only thing, I had my ECU come disconnected during that trip. You can watch the video; it's on the YouTube and all that stuff. I had my ECU come disconnected, and I don't think I put a wrench onto that bike the entire rest of the tour, like not even adjusting a chain. So that's a well-prepped bike, number one, a good durable bike, number two, and I was using nothing that I didn't have plenty of experience with. And I ran tubes because at that time I just didn't have the experience to run a Moose. I just wasn't that super confident to do it at the time. But now for sure I would with the harder ones that last a lot longer, easily. So hopefully that answers your question. And the other part was, do they have applications outside of racing? Absolutely. I run them in quite a few bikes. Generally, it's like I have a fleet of rental bikes here, and as we start running through them, sometimes we'll have a test batch that'll come, and we'll throw some in, And then when they get broken in on the rental bikes, after the first tire wears off, I usually pull them out and throw them in my personal bike, and then I'll run them till the tire wears out, maybe once, maybe twice. And now we're talking about like a 1,500 mile, because we're easily getting at least 500 miles on a tire. And then I give them to my buddy Crazy Nate, who they're mush, and he puts them in his bike that he rides up in the super tight technical trails. And he's a putter, and he wants to run a flat tire, and the Moose works perfect, and they last. I don't think he's ever worn one out. Usually, I have to take the threads start coming out of the tire, and I have to steal it back, and then it's time for a new one. But who knows how much miles he's put on it by the time they're done. So, yes, and I do feel that the Nitro Moose lasts a little bit longer than some of the other ones out there. Michelin would probably be the next one. They have a slightly different feel. You can read about it when we tested them on the website. We kind of get into detail on some of the stuff about the feel, but I won't go into that here. And that is it on the Moose question. And then, okay, so I'm seeing some questions about the Soft Moose. Let's see. The Soft Moose is, just like they say, it's a softer one. I have not done the long-term durability test on those yet. We're working on it. But I have a few of them in tires right now that we're kind of logging hours on. I have tested them when they start. I want to say they start, because I think the hard ones start to me at about 15 PSI. Kind of depends on the tire, what you're running them in, and what they feel like in the beginning. And then the hard ones kind of break down to about, they go to like 12, 13, and then when they kind of start getting worn, they'll go down to like 10. The soft one seems like when I put it in, it started at like 12 or 13, and I put one in a Equilibrium, which is a pretty soft sidewall, and I have one in a DT, and that one felt a little bit stiffer, but then again, that's a stiffer carcass tire, so that's why I put them in two different tires, so I can feel how the tire breaks down versus how the Moose breaks down, because I know how the tire breaks down, and it's just going to take some time to ride those things and get a kind of comparison, as it were. So let's see here. I'm going to scroll through the questions real quick. Let's see. Chris is not an expert. Well, you answered my question. That makes you an expert on that question, so I'm happy with that. Let's see. George, yeah, I answered your question. Let's see. Seal savers. Also retain dirt that scratches the fork leg. Interesting, Matt. Yeah. So if, it's like sort of like sandpaper, like the seal savers acting like sandpaper. I could take a little bit of that, I guess, but I have not used them that much to notice that. We don't have a lot of mud. What feed are you listening to in your headset? Huh? Okay. Let's see. Not a web page like your Facebook. What? No. Let's see. Who's the CHP officer? We've got cops in the room. I didn't do any speeding today at all. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, that question. Let's see. Wow, what language is that? I can't even pronounce your name, and I have no idea what you said. I should pin that comment to the top of the page, right? Hey, Alex. Another kid that I've helped out of a couple tough times. Have I tested the Mako 360 bar mount, Garrett asks. Yes, I have. I actually did some development testing with them in the early days when they were just kind of getting it going. They knew I was a fan of the flex bars, and so they sent some stuff out here for me to test. And we were constantly going. It was at the phase where they were really learning a lot about elastomers and some different, just different feelings that you can get. And I know they've improved since then. I have not had a chance to try them since then. They haven't. I tried that, and they were also really big in the foot peg, the isolated foot pegs. I did a lot of testing with them, and their foot pegs are probably the most vibration dampening isolated foot pegs out there. and they were, again, we were doing a lot of elastomer testing and changing stuff. So I noticed that they're getting pretty popular on the GNCCs. They've got some top guys running those things. It's a small company, just kind of a guy that was kind of starting it up out of his garage and really trying to make it big with it. And I'm pretty sure he's getting there. But I think if you're looking for, there's a lot of different options in that vibration, isolation, shock dampening stuff, in the chassis. And with chassis getting stiffer and these rides getting more aggressive, I think it's a pretty, it's going to be important to customize and tune your bike. They all work a little bit different. The thing about that is there's a little bit of difference between like flex bars and the way that the Mako works and the way that the some of the bar mounts, like the BRP bar mount, how they work on the they all have a little bit of different feel. And so if I run a lot of my bikes, I run the BRP bar mount and the flex handlebars, and I literally have to run that stuff if I'm going to ride like multiple days because my wrists are pretty bad. And so for me, I'm running a combination of the BRP mount. A lot of times this is used in conjunction with a Scott's damper, so I got to build the whole stack here. It's a whole system. The Scott's damper, so it allows me to submount the damper, and then the BRP actually works on the vibration. And depending on which elastomer you run, it changes. So like there's red and blue, and I'm pretty sure I got to get this right. I'm looking over at my bike right now. I think I run red on my 4-strokes, and then I run blue on the 2-stroke. And it seems like that's the best for where the bike's running, the vibration. The 2-stroke's the 200, by the way, so it is a higher RPM than I'd have to test it on a 300 or 200 or a 300 or 250 to see if it was the same. But that kind of gets rid of some of the vibration feel in the handlebars. The flex bars for me do not really do much in the vibration department. The flex bars absorb the impacts, and I've always said that the flex bars will make a bad fork feel good. Like I can get away with a stiffer setting on my fork and tune that out kind of with my flex bar, and especially when I'm getting the really sharp hits or the big giant G-outs, the flex bars are awesome. I remember lightly what the Mako did was it actually had a little bit more movement in some different axes. The flex bar just kind of went up and down, and the Mako had some side-to-side twist and some rotational. And this was something they were working on being able to tune a little bit better. And I don't know if they've done that. I'm pretty sure they must have, because I don't think any like racer guy would like any sort of that vague feel. And I was running some pretty soft elastomers with it because they knew that they probably thought I was an old man and I wanted like cushy, mushy stuff, which some people do. But there was a little bit of movement in kind of some different ways. But the Mako seemed like it actually did a lot more for vibration than the actual bump impact or what I was looking for. So it might have kind of been doing two things at once, but it's a matter of preference, and they're, like I say, both good products, both good for testing. It'd be really good to do a comparison or a shootout with those two things and try to explain it better so I can answer these questions better, because right now I'm going off of an old product and something that I use all the time. So I've got a bias on that, and I'll be the first guy to tell you that's from trying this different stuff, I've kind of settled on my setting, and that's not to say it's the best setting in the world, except for me, but I know how it works, and that's how I would use it. So let's see. Chris Smith, the expert, said, I thought flex bars were kind of gimmicky until I tried them. I don't notice much during the ride, to be honest, but feel better after the ride. That's exactly the way they're supposed to work. Amazing. That's you know what one of the best the true tests of a product is when you actually go and use it and you forget about using that product. You don't you just, it just does something good. You don't notice it. That's half the challenge, because a lot of times you put stuff on and you notice it and maybe you want to, but if you just start riding and everything's good and you're not thinking about whatever that problem was you were trying to solve, that's the key to a good product test. Am I done eating? What? Let's see. Experience with the tube saddle. Oh boy. Yeah, I have an experience with the tube saddle. So the tube saddle is this interesting guy. I think he was a lawyer by trade. I met him at some races and stuff, and he has this thing that was actually designed to prevent pinch flats. It's a foam insert that kind of cups the rim, and it separates the gap between the where the so it makes it really hard to get the tube in between the rim and the bead, and then it kind of goes up a little bit on the sidewall where evidently pinch flats might occur. So we had some and we tested them, and I saw, and this is our testing, absolutely 100% no difference in the occurrence of pinch flats whatsoever. Our pinch flats were happening from the tire compressing down all the way to the rim, and really above where that tube saddle was working. The tube saddle made it a little bit more difficult to mount the tire because there's a technique to it, and it did help if your spoke nipple, the spoke nipples are going to get pushed through or stuff like it. It's going to protect it down there, but actually preventing the pinch flaps, I saw no evidence of that. And so, yeah, I tested it and wasn't, and they lasted a long time. I used to get frustrated when I'd forget that I had one in a wheel and I had to take the damn tire off, and I couldn't figure out why it was so damn difficult. So not a fan of that product, although I do know a lot of people that swear by them. So maybe they just are getting different kinds of pinch flats. I don't get pinch flats from installation problems. I make sure that my tube is not pinched when I put it in there. I have a really good system for buttering it up with some baby powder, doing all the right things. So that isn't an issue for me. So maybe that's the difference. Maybe that other people they're eliminating that problem of the tube getting underneath there. I would guess that's the proper answer for that. Okay, I'm gonna run back to the questions here. Yeah, that guy is interesting to chat with, and he made these little cool little tools that were the ones that hold the bead down in the tire. He gave them to me one night out at King of the Motos. He always seemed to approach me at the absolute wrong time. Like I had 10 other things going on, like I was trying to put on a extreme enduro, and then he was like, "Hey, you got to try these things," and I go, "I promise I will." But anyhow, let's see if we're up here. Why is this thing doing what it's doing now? Got a little fly in here. You see the little fly? This shop is not sanitary right now. Take a breath, Jimmy. Four-stroke stories? I'm going to tell those. A couple other things I want to get to. Okay. I'm going to announce right now, live on this thing here, the Dirt Bike Test Intern Summer Program. So, if you know somebody who is getting has a summer break, wants to be a motorcycle product tester or a test rider, or maybe has some aspirations of wanting to be a motorcycle racer, which is really, really crazy, right, Ryan? You might turn into an artist. Maybe you hit your head hard enough and you become an artist. But if you want to be an intern out here, I want you to reach out to us. We are in the need for more content, more smart people, more trustworthy people to help us out. And I don't want a bunch of old dudes because I want to get some fresh, young perspectives, because a lot of the technologies and stuff that we're using, the young kids grasp it a little bit quicker. I need people that are interested in shooting video, taking pictures, editing video, writing product tests, following my ass around with a camera and shooting some of the stuff I do and then going back and editing it so I don't have to do that because I'm old and worn out, and I'm trying to learn all those things, and I forget too many other things that I'm supposed to be doing. So here's how you do it. If you want to be an intern, I want you to write me a product test. So find something that you know about. Let's say you know about a Recluse clutch. Maybe that's what you know about. Or maybe you know about a tire you've used or a pair of gloves or anything. Something that you're familiar with. And I want you to look at the way that we write our product tests, and I want you to write me a product test. That's how you get started, is do that. And send some photos too that look like we could publish it. Every time I get asked, hey man, I want to be a test rider, that's what I ask you to do. And then what we're going to do is we will have, if you're into it, if it works out, I have a place you can stay. I have a place you can work. I'll cover some of your costs to exist, and I'll put you on top of a lot of brand new dirt bikes that you can test. But that comes last. Yeah, it's not go out and ride brand new dirt bikes and stuff. So we're looking for somebody who doesn't have a job, who's has some free time in their life, somebody who is committed, and maybe we can turn it into something. But if you're doing this, I also want you to be going to school. I want you to be taking some college classes, community classes, or going back to high school and staying engaged in that, because this dirt bike stuff is not exactly a road to prosperity. And education is. So if you know anybody, if you know any kids that are into doing that, let me know. We're looking for that. That's our DBT intern summer program, and I promise you it will be hot. It'll be hot out here. Here's how it works. We ride in the morning and we ride at night. Yeah, and the rest of the day you sit inside of a swamp coolered room and crank out stuff on a computer. So that's it. Another thing I wanted to run over is somebody asked me, they're like, hey, how do you guys test bikes? It was kind of a simple question. How do you test bikes? And I don't know if the question was kind of like, how do you get test bikes or how do you test bikes? But one of the things that we do is we test bikes in the way that they're supposed to be used. And same thing, we test products in the way that they're supposed to be used. The bikes are easy because bikes are sold for a certain reason, like a motocross bike. We test motocross bikes on motocross tracks in motocross conditions. Oftentimes we race them. We give them to people that race, and they race them. And so we don't very often take a stock motocross bike, ride it off-road, and then tell you how the suspension sucks. Because how are you supposed to design, so you got to test stuff in the realm it was designed for. So when we get a stock dual sport bike, we try to ride it stock for a certain portion of time because many people do that. And then as part of the testing, we will go through some of the normal modifications people will do. And so we test it in the area it was supposed to be used in. But once we start modifying or changing things, I mean, other than, doing the clickers and the adjustments that you're allowed to do or able to do stock, then all of a sudden you're personalizing it. And if there is some sort of a problem or a characteristic that sort of stands out, then we'll go to some sort of a modification that might allow it to adjust it. So sometimes we'll do the project bikes on the site, which are, chasing down some of the issues that we had. Maybe there's a bike, like there's an RMZ 450 upgrade on the website right now where we complained about the shock and the suspension in general. So we went and worked on that. And we wanted a little bit more power. So we went and worked on that. So we do these things that are pointed to a certain reason. We don't just grab a bike and say, here's the 10 things you have to do to this bike. If I was going to give you 10 things to do to a bike, I guarantee you 7 of them would be free. It would just be setup stuff that particular bike responds to. And it's really easy to find things that do a specific purpose and make a big difference. But when we go test these things, and it's not just one rider in 20 minutes, riding around and then giving you some, some instant feedback. We use them. We work on them. I take the air filter out and clean it like I'm supposed to. I don't send it back to the manufacturer after it's been ridden for 4 hours and go, it needs tires and, that thing, you got to clean it. Oh, the air filter, I mean. I don't do that. We do it because a normal owner does that kind of stuff and has to know. And so which ones are a little bit easier to work on, when ones are a little harder to work on. And then we can make those kind of statements when we're talking about the tests, and when we do comparisons, we give you good information on that stuff. So it's and the same thing with product testing. And, we try to, as the best we can, is throw a durability aspect into all of this stuff. And that's why I can kind of come down pretty hard when somebody says, well, that thing says the valve adjusts need to be done every 4 hours. And I'm like, I've ridden mine for 200 hours and I haven't even looked at it. It gives me some background to make those kind of statements, to let you know that this works this way and this works that way and stuff. It's a good basis for giving you the right kind of information. Sometimes in the product testing side of things, we abuse it. We'll kind of go a little bit past the limit to try to figure out a way to test the durability. Like the other day I was smacking myself with I think it was a shoe through the padding on a vest. I hurt my boobie testing the difference between an Under Armour and not. I mean, that's not normal, but it's like I hadn't crashed in it and I wanted to talk about it and have some explanation, so I had to kind of simulate it. Just like when you see some of those commercials where they're dragging somebody on their jeans behind a truck, to say that this Kevlar line something or other works. I mean, it's sometimes you go a little bit outside, but it's a way to simulate maybe something bad happening when that kind of stuff doesn't happen. But if stuff's used in normal use, if we use it in normal use and there's a problem with it, yeah, sure, you're going to hear about it. But that rarely happens anymore. Most of these companies do a pretty good job of developing and testing things that go way beyond what the ordinary person would put it through. So sometimes we have to kind of push the limits and fudge it. So, I mean, when you're talking about that kind of stuff, you see, and the service intervals are a big deal for most of the guys now. When they look at the bike and they're like all worried about that stuff. And it's a good guideline to start with. But like, as you start learning, I've drained my oil after that 10 hours and it came out and looked perfect. Well, go 12, go 15, take a step with it. And that's the kind of stuff we do when we're in testing. So, that's how we test stuff. We have a lot of different ability level riders ride things. We get their feedback. We make setting changes on the bike for particular riders. We played a lot with the suspension on that WR450 this weekend, and I was really happy with it, but I hadn't ridden on that slow and tight technical kind of really rocky stuff. And I was kind of surprised that, going back and forth between the KTM, which is sprung a lot lighter and a little more active, how much I liked the KTM in comparison to the Yamaha, which I've always really liked the Yamaha. And I'm like, oh, and it was mostly my buddy Dave, who's the pickiest. He's got to carry a screwdriver with him, and he was like clicking and doing this and that, and he like almost didn't want to because he knew how much I liked it. And then we're moving the forks a little bit, and in the clamps, trying to get a little more weight on the front wheel, just interesting stuff. And I wished I would have had time to go ride it today, because I'd like to ride it back in the conditions that I originally set it up for, which originally set it up means I didn't change anything from the way it was delivered because it was so good. So it'll be interesting to do some back-to-back and get some further testing on this. That's the stuff that we test. I mean, it's just simple stuff, and then really kind of going that extra mile to know the bike, to know the information. So when I'm asked a question, I don't go, I don't know. If I don't know, it means I need to go test it more and do some more stuff. So that is the way we test. Let's see here. Somebody likes it 125 degrees. No, you don't. No, it's really not. It's not that good. Let's see. Rolling down the thing. Eduardo Ross asked, 2019 KTM XC450F versus 2019 Honda 450 for a dual bike. Eduardo, man, did we do that comparison last year? I know we were working on it. Maybe it never got written up. So I think we did it a couple years ago, maybe a couple years back. We did those bikes, and they haven't changed a whole lot. I'm going to go back, and I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, the KTM is kind of the horsepower king, and it's limited by, what was it? It was, boy, you're racking my brain. I'm so into Yamahas and KTMs right now. I forgot about comparing it to the Honda, the XCF. It's on the website. Check dirtbiketest.com. Search those two bikes, and I promise you'll come up with some information. That's I hate to make you go type into a computer at least like probably 37 letters or something, and it could provide you with the information that you'd like. Actually, go to our website and type it into that search engine, or you might go to something like Dirt Rider and get really bad information by guys who tested it for like 10 minutes. They didn't keep my ethics over there after I left, so because they're not Mr. Rogers. Yeah, they don't love you. Not like me. So, okay. Fred Burris, he's been spooked by the intervals on some modern bikes. Fred, don't be. They're really, really good. Craig Hunter joined. Craig, where's your kid? What's he been doing? Get Trevor back on the gas. I know he's been broken, but that he should have wrote like 20 product tests the whole time he was injured. And I don't know why you can't type with a broken wrist. But he did test a Mobius brace, and that should be going up on the site hopefully in the next day or two. He tested a wrist brace coming back from his broken wrist. I saw the copy today, and hopefully there's some photos that go along with it, and that kind of information will go up there. So that's how we test bikes. And now I'm going to talk about four strokes for the last 6 minutes of this podcast. I'm going to have another sip of beer. Ian Young has his JCR Honda CRF 450 FX for sale. Is Ian's bike a JCR bike? I don't think it is, actually, but it's probably a good bike. Probably pops really mean willies. That was a mean inside joke, by the way. But just leave it to me to throw trash and gas on the fire. So the reason I'm going to talk about four strokes is because last week we brought up the Cannondale. The Cannondale. So remember, this was the future of four strokes. The Cannondale MX 400. I was one of the first journalists to ride it. Shortly after Dirt Rider picked it as bike of the year before they ever rode it. So, and this was back in August of 2000. So we flew out to Pennsylvania or someplace like that. I actually went out there with Kevin Cameron, who is the technical editor at Cycle World. Still is. Actually, man, do they regurgitate his stories. But they're awesome. If Cycle World does one good thing is put Kevin Cameron's stuff up and read his stuff. It's awesome. He has a incredible way of breaking down very technical things and explaining them in layman terms, and then just going off on a tangent that makes you very interested in whatever mechanical terms. But anyways, I went out there with Kevin because they wanted somebody that was really technical. I was just a wrist at the time, mostly. I was learning still about all this stuff, but to have Kevin there to break down really a lot of the stuff, and it was interesting to see how much he paid attention to what I thought and what I said, because he couldn't ride the bikes at the time. He wasn't a dirt bike rider and wasn't really interested in that. And at that time, I was still kind of pro level at motocross and stuff, and it was that was kind of the future of four strokes. But guess what? It wasn't that much of a future, because this is from a Dirt Bike Magazine test. Look at that. That is a Husaberg. And now we're getting back to like the early 90s. So this is probably 7 or 8 years. I don't know exactly which year this is. Somebody on the forum will probably identify what year this one is. Four-stroke force, remember? So this is back when Husky broke off and went to Italy, or the Italians bought the Husky, and these crazy guys, the four-stroke guys, went ahead and took over and made this company called Husaberg. They took essentially, hold on. They took this thing, which this is the Italian one. So that's a TE610. This is the Italian version of the old Swedish version of the four-stroke. So all this stuff really started in the late 80s, 88, 89. The idea of a lightweight four-stroke kind of coming back, making a return. These could be really good motorcycles. They found ways to, get rid of all the girth. It wasn't an XR600 anymore, doing those kind of four-stroke things. They were starting to figure out how to make them tiny and compact. Really, the Husaberg guys were the first ones to do it. A small company called Vertimani was making these gear-driven, handcrafted Italian four-strokes, lightweight four-strokes. And they were coming from bikes like this. Anybody know what that one is? Come on, guess. ATK. Yep, that's an ATK 604, and this was back when ATK was made in Laguna Beach. So this is probably 88, 87 or 88. Man, and that bike was very thin and narrow except for that giant one-lunger of a motor down in there. And that was when Ron Wood was able to make these four-stroke motors really, really rip. But they were heavy, and all the weight was in the motor. So you start seeing some of the history here. It was like, hey, four-strokes are kind of coming back. We're going to put a good four-stroke motor, and this is when there was four-stroke nationals, because everybody was racing two-strokes, and they had four-stroke nationals for places to race these exotic bikes. And that brings us to this era here, which is a story I did in Cycle World, and this was back in 97, where we were taking bikes like XR 400s and KLR 250s and turning them into 350s. And it was that time when could we modify one of these Japanese bikes, put better suspension, modify this play bike or this trail bike into a four-stroke, but they were still heavy and they were nowhere near competitive to a current two-stroke. They just didn't. They needed, at that time, they easily needed double the displacement to make the similar amount of horsepower. They were carbureted, so they didn't have the same kind of throttle responses like our new fuel-injected four-strokes do. Of course, like I said, weight, and they were very unreliable, especially the air-cooled ones. That they were just pushing the limits on everything to get the kind of power out of it. But this is kind of the birth of where all of our modern four-strokes are coming from. And you kind of, I was lucky to ride all these things, and I roll back to the Cannondale, which was just it was a freak, because all of a sudden they were doing fuel injection on a four-stroke with the cylinder head turned around backwards, and kind of like a Yamaha in a lot of ways. And I know Yamaha says they never copied it, but I'm sure they had one in their shop at one point or another. There's some reasons why that engine architecture works and can be really good. You see it especially on the 250, the smaller bike, because all of a sudden they can get so much more power because the downdraft, intake and stuff like that. They have the room to play with the exhaust tuning and things of that nature. It changes the CG on the bike, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a characteristic. It's a certain type of thing. And now we're getting to the point where we can tune these bikes with our phone, with an app in the phone. You can literally kill the power, increase the power, not really increase it. You can change the feel of it. You can get a little bit more power. And if you do stuff to modify the bike to get more power, exhausts, for instance, or change cams, you can play around with the tuning inside of the ignition without having to go to a complete accessory ECU, something like that to make it go. But, kind of seeing all these evolutions of crazy four-strokes, what the Husaberg guys did to shrink that motor down. And of course, if you know the story of Husaberg, those guys went to KTM before Husky came back, and they had, so Husaberg was part of KTM. It's still, when you get a KTM part, it still has Husaberg on the side of the box because it's a brand that they own. And essentially they were kind of grooming Husaberg to be what Husky is now. And then when they were basically gifted the Husqvarna brand from the Germans, when BMW had it for a while, they took it and ran with it, and it's history now. Look at those things; they're come full circle. And I don't know. I wonder where the Husaberg guys are. they need to let them do another Skunk Works project like that 70-degree 4-stroke, because I think that's why my KTM 500 is so good. They did a really good job adjusting the fuel injection. So I will run through the questions again real quick. See what we're talking. I see we got some questions. Let's see. Worst idea ever? Yeah, me doing this podcast. You're right. Yeah, thanks. An ATK ran at the Mint. Did it finish? Yeah, the ATK had a countershaft rear brake. That's true. It had the chain torque eliminator, which was also kind of interesting. Horst Leitner, who built that bike, always had some crazy ideas, and he took his ideas and went out into the mountain bike industry, and now he makes some of the best little nuggets for trucks. Or his company Amp Research makes really neat little parts for trucks. I run their bed extender and bed steps on all of my trucks. So kind of cool. Let's see. Cannondale. Yep, Cannondale. I remember seeing a Cannondale. I rode the first Cannondale. So the funny thing is, if you own a Cannondale, if you search the internets, you will find the Jimmy Lewis map. So if your Cannondale doesn't run very good, find that map, because they actually used to use a Palm. You remember the Palm device? In the Palm, you'd plug it into your computer, and you could change the ignitions out on the trail. Imagine that. That's so 2000, I guess, now. So this is nothing new, but everybody will be doing it soon. Okay, let's see. Yes, Chris Crandall rode the hell out of those ATKs. A lot of guys did. They used to have a pretty strong effort. I raced one in a National Hare and Hound. I think I won the 4-stroke A class on it one time up in Utah, back when they'd moved out there. It was the one that evolved into the single-sided frame that had oil in it and stuff. Kind of interesting. They're still out there. You can buy them all day long on the Craigslists and stuff. Okay, so I think that's about it. We're gonna start wrapping this sucker up. Fun trip down history lane. I dug up all these old photos from when I was doing testing at both Cycle World, and I don't have a lot of these tear sheets from the Dirt Rider age because everything kind of went digital there. But by then, 4-strokes were pretty well established, and now you can see where everything's gone. In fact, back then I was way ahead of this curve because I was racing XR80s in Supercross in some guy's backyard in Thousand Oaks, and we'll just leave it with that. I got a check on the wall right back up there. I made $1,460 racing in XR80 in some guy's backyard in Thousand Oaks. That's Langtown. So thanks for everybody for joining. I will dig through the questions and find somebody to send out a T-shirt to. Buy T-shirts on Dirt Bike Test, and you have to buy them like tonight, because I won't send them out. I'm going to send them out tomorrow, and then I'm going to take a break because I'm going to go riding my dirt bike. I'm going to go riding that Yamaha that's sitting right behind me. I'm supposed to get a pipe for it real soon. Please talk about the KTM 450 XCF. Didn't I just talk about that? Search KTM 450 XCF on dirtbiketest.com, and you will get a boatload of information. Let's see, the 2019. Well, I haven't ridden the 2000. Have I? No, I rode the 250 XCF, but not the 19 450 XCF. Are my classes full? This weekend, I think I have one spot, but I don't talk about my classes on this podcast because I try not to contaminate the waters with my personal opinions ever that much. You know what I really think? Hey, nobody's asked me about how come nobody's asking me about the clutch hub bearing on the Honda CR 450X that No, you don't want to know about that. Actually, it was nothing. I wasn't like this little internet twerp that I couldn't just wait to go running to the internets. I'm still trying to find out what was wrong, but we think it was kind of like a one in a million thing. And I haven't had any indication that it changed anything inside of that clutch after we went back. We put a little bit more time on it, and it's still kind of the same. But you want to fix it. Recluse, kind of like you saw when we opened the show when I was inside of that. That's a Honda 450R that we put the same the Recluse torque drive clutch inside of there. It's a good thing. So cool. Again, thanks you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna tune out now. The tequila of the night. I know you were guessing. That was a big thing. Cazadores. It's the old standby. Yep, it's a good one to base all the other ones off of. So in case you're on your tequila tasting, I have 213 tequilas down at Romero's. Come by and sit in my bar stool. It's not there yet. Maybe that's why we're not back there. I might be holding out on that. And I'll quit talking and we'll catch you out on the trail. See ya.